Lucy Edwards, Director of Client Success at VHT Studios. And today I am with my guest, Misha. And Misha is the founder and the owner of Paramount Realty USA, the auction house, it is the largest in New York metropolitan area, isn't it?
We are the most active, non-distressed luxury and commercial auction company in New York. That's right. Thank you, Lucy.
That is certainly a great introduction. So, Misha, let's talk about auction house, and it's getting more and more popular. It actually has been popular. We met, 15 years ago, if not even earlier. So it's really been flourishing, your business, and lately it doesn't matter. Before COVID, after COVID, everyone is kind of dividing it now. Let's talk about how you built your business, how you got involved in the auction house, and all the changes you're going through. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure, that's lots of questions. Thank you for having me, and I'm happy to tackle all of those questions. I first learned about auctions in 1997. I was a freshman at NYU's Stern School of Business, and I got an internship working for another auction house. And when I first learned about the model, I thought it was so smart and so efficient. I grew up with a mom who was a residential broker, and I saw what that was like firsthand. And I just viewed the traditional brokerage process as difficult, challenging, inefficient, a pain in the butt for brokers. It's very hard for brokers. They have a very, very, very difficult and thankless job sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I think that I'm all about efficiency. And I viewed the auction model from the first time I learned about it as very, very efficient. So that's where I learned about it. I spent a few years while I was at NYU interning for an auction house. Mm-hmm. I graduated from Stern. I went to Cornell for law school. Mm. I graduated from law school. I practiced law, real estate and corporate law on Wall Street at Milbank Tweed, which is a very prestigious firm on Wall Street, representing major institutions like JP Morgan Chase, some very high net worth families like the Rockefeller family. And then in 2006, I made a move back to auctions, rejoining the auction house that I worked for earlier as director of their New York office. And in 2009, I founded Paramount Realty USA. Oh. That's my career path.
What a success story.
Thank you. Thank you. And since founding Paramount, we have represented many types of owners, including private equity funds, developers, some lenders, family offices, partnerships, but for the most part, homeowners. Mm-hmm. And we have auctioned many types of residential and commercial property. Mm-hmm. Geographically, we have been focused in the metro New York area. So over 90% of our business has been in New York City, Long Island, as well as Westchester, Greenwich, and the metro New York marketplace. Mm-hmm. And over the last 4 or so years, we've expanded geographically. And we have now implemented auctions in Miami, LA, Hawaii, Philadelphia, New Mexico, Chicago, and some other marketplaces.
Yeah, and you are even overseas, right?
We are not overseas.
Not overseas. It's all United States.
United States.
Okay,
yes.
Well, listen, that's enough.
It is enough. Listen, even New York is enough. There's so much opportunity, and New York is such a vibrant market, and there's so many properties, high value properties, low value properties, medium value properties. I mean, there's just a lot in this marketplace. We're very happy to be the most active in, one of the nation's most important marketplaces.
New York is the capital of the world, in my opinion. So I understand you have 3 formats of how you are processing the sale of the property and which way the seller decides to proceed with the auction house. But doesn't matter, and we will talk about that, but doesn't matter what they choose. First, it has to be marketed, and the urgency is created to sell the property on a certain day, in a certain way. Can we start from the beginning of the process?
Sure.
Marketing, I guess,
sure.
is the foundation.
So let's start from the beginning. And I would say the true beginning is that it all really starts with the seller. Mm-hmm. This platform is appropriate for some clients, not for everybody. It's not for everyone. It's for some sellers. Some sellers prefer to sell by auction.
Okay.
The why is kind of irrelevant, but they prefer to sell by auction. If they prefer to sell by auction, they are likely going to ask their listing agent how to sell by auction. That is our number one source of business. Listing agents contact us regarding their listings, and they say, I have a client who's interested in selling by auction. Why? Let's talk about why. The seller may prefer an auction because they buy and sell art through auction. They buy and sell jewelry or collectibles, antiques, baseball cards through auction,
So they're already
automobiles.
used to the process.
They're already used to the process. Or maybe they like auction because they like the idea of creating a bidding war. Or maybe they like auction because they like the fact that it's a fast process. It's a controlled process. The seller sets the terms of sale. The seller sets the timeline of sale. For whatever reason, some sellers prefer auction. And they often approach their listing agents and say so. So the listing agents should be armed with an answer and an ability to service this request. They should be able to offer the service for their clients. So our objective is to actually help listing agents service their clients. Our platform helps listing agents make it more likely that listings sell, make it more likely that they sell faster, and make it more likely that the listing agent sells direct, no co-broke. We have closed about 750 transactions in the last 11 or 12 years, and over 75% of those 750 transactions were sold direct with no buyer broker. And I think that's a truly, truly value add for listing brokers, considering the alternative, which is traditional brokerage, is exactly the opposite. In a traditional context, 70, 80+% of the time, deals are co-broked. So the listing agent is only getting half the fee. But we help flip that the other way. So that's step one. As I like to say recently a lot, our platform, selling by auction, it's like strawberry ice cream. Lots of people love vanilla and chocolate, which is like traditional brokerage. That's normal. Some people love strawberry ice cream. And if they do, they choose that over vanilla or chocolate. And that's what we are. We're strawberry ice cream. We may not be the first choice or the most common choice, but we exist for that purpose. So that's really the first step, the seller. If the seller wants it, they should be able to get it, and they should be able to get it through their listing agent, not in place of their listing agent. Now to your point regarding marketing. The auction, a lot of people think that what we do, it's all about the auction itself. They think it's the actual bidding.
Yeah.
When really, that is really just the culmination of a much bigger process. That process is the marketing. It's leading up to the auction. What we're doing as a value add for sellers and for our listing agent partners who stay involved through the whole process, all of our marketing materials are co-branded with the listing agent partner. They're involved in every step of the way, and so on. The real value that we add is in the marketing leading up to the auction. It's typically a 6 to 8 week marketing process leading up to the auction. For example, we're dropping a listing price, which is typically above market price, to a below market opening bid price. So say you have a $3 million property with a $3.5 million asking price, traditionally. We would take the same property and market it for sale with an opening bid, maybe $2.49 million. Doing that will trigger much more engagement.
It
from
creates
buyers.
the anxiety. Everyone wants to see the property.
Of course they do, because if you're looking at a particular set of criteria, if you're looking for a certain home, and there are 10 homes that meet your criteria, and they're all worth around the same price, and they're all asking around the same price, let's just say $3.5 million, and one of them goes to auction, private auction, September 15th, and the price changes from asking 3.5 to opening bid 2.5, as a buyer, you're going to focus on this property first. You may not buy it, but at a minimum, you'll focus on this one first. It is this ability for us to prioritize the subject property, to prioritize the auction property in the minds of buyers that's truly, truly valuable for sellers always, particularly in a weak market when they're competing, when it's a buyer's market, and absolutely in a seller's market when the market is hot. This process helps actually command premiums to formalize bidding wars and so on. So we help sellers reach a wider audience, create urgency, and sell faster at market price. How do we reach a wider audience? It's the reduction in list price that I just mentioned. It's our aggressive direct solicitation, particularly of the brokerage community. We have a very significant proprietary email list. We email all of our auctions every week for 6 to 8 weeks to our email list, which at this point is 70,000 and growing. And it's a very strong list, primarily of Metro New York area buyers, investors, high net worth individuals, brokers, partners at law firms, and so on. We engage in social media marketing. We do all of the things that a regular broker does, a traditional broker does, and more. And number two, in addition to doing lots of things to reach buyers, we are conveying a much more compelling message. We are not saying listing, asking 3.5. We're saying auction, June 27th. Previously asking 4 million, opening bid 2.5 million.
So you create that urgency. You have the date, you have the price that is lower than expected, and you have this anxiety that, oh my goodness, that property is $1 million less than everyone is around. I absolutely have to see it.
Exactly.
And that your goal is to make sure that you have more buyers or potential buyers show up, more agents show up to see the property and to bring their potential buyers.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is the goal to reach the widest audience possible, convey a compelling message so that they feel incentivized to participate, to inquire, at least at a minimum, to inquire. And this inquiring, this ability for us to create greater engagement gets us in touch with prospective bidders and their brokers. So we have names and contact information, and then we can work with them and solicit bids from them leading up to the auction and at auction itself, which brings up another good point. Do you know when the ideal time to sell a property is in our context?
No, but I'm sure you'll tell me.
I'm going to tell you. It's actually before the auction. Best case scenario, we start marketing, and it's a 6 to 8 week marketing process. Best case scenario, 2, 3, 4 weeks into the marketing process, a buyer or a buyer's broker contacts us or the listing agent. Either way, we're partners. We work together. And they say, I want this property, and I want it now. I don't want to compete. I don't want to go to auction. I want it now. What's it going to take to buy now? Can I buy it now? What's it going to take? When we get that phone call or that inquiry, that's the best case scenario, because now we're operating based upon the buyer's fear of loss, especially with residential, even more so with luxury residential. It's an emotional purchase. So that buyer who really wants the home for whatever reason, for whatever unique attributes, for whatever reason, again, the reasoning is irrelevant. Why doesn't matter? All that matters is the price, the terms.
And the buyer wants it now.
The buyer wants it now. So we're often able to leverage an upcoming auction to generate a faster sale at a price acceptable to ownership in advance of the auction.
Right.
And then going to your point, your question from earlier, there are 3 formats at the end of this auction process. By the way, the auction process includes lots of marketing from us, as I described, and the listing agent together, co-branded. Listing agent is involved throughout the process. Inspections of the home. We set up at least usually 3 scheduled tours that the listing agent leads so that buyers have opportunity to see the home. Listing agents have opportunity to meet and speak with all of these prospective buyers. And number 3, we provide ample due diligence virtually in advance of the auction. So we've done all this marketing, we've created all this urgency, and we've got buyers in the door.
So let me ask you, so the potential buyers can actually see the house 2 weeks into the process or 3 weeks. They don't
Absolutely.
have to wait for the actual September 15th date.
Of course not, no. Our process is meant to replicate whatever is going to maximize value for the seller, and that absolutely includes seeing the home. And it doesn't mean seeing the home the day of the auction. It means seeing it weeks and weeks in advance of the auction, and often seeing it multiple times. So we are marketing, we're providing access to view the home, we're providing due diligence so buyers are informed and they know what they need to know before they bid, before they make a buying decision, and before they make an offer. There are no unanswered questions. If there are unanswered questions, that will only translate into discounts. Uncertainty is bad for the seller because buyers have to price that in and they will bid less. So you answer all the questions up front through due diligence, and then you have the auction. There's 3 formats of auctions that we offer. In-person auctions, where bidders are sitting in front of one another and they're actually bidding like this, raising a paddle usually. Online auctions, which is
like virtual. Yeah.
virtual, self-explanatory, and sealed bid auctions. The 3 different formats, they all have different pros and cons.
So that is fascinating. And with the market the way it is today, where you have shortage of inventory and everything is flying off the shelf as is, even luxury properties, and there are bidding wars. It was a bidding war in Palm Beach the other day where it was $100 million house. $100 million house. I couldn't even comprehend it. And it was a bidding war on that through just regular traditional brokerage. Question to you, how you get involved in a situation like that when the traditional brokerage can have bidding wars as is?
Okay, great question. So they don't need us. They don't need us. You know, it starts with the seller, as I said earlier. If the seller prefers this approach, then the listing agent should offer this approach.
Okay.
If the seller prefers this approach, they may not accept the outcome of a traditional brokerage strategy, but they may accept the same outcome if it comes through an auction strategy. In other words, in this $100 million example, if the seller prefers auction, at the end of a traditional strategy, let's assume they got a $100 million offer. The seller may say, no, this is worth 110. I'm not selling less than 110. So they don't sell. If the seller believes in auction and prefers auction, and we deliver the same 100 million, the seller is more likely to accept the conclusion because they believe in the process. And this value is really, really, really significant for the listing agent.
Right.
It took me, I'm doing this 17 years, it took me 14 years to realize that there is a tremendous value that we provide to listing agents, which is that we help the seller understand fair market value. That's the number one problem in the marketplace. The number one obstruction to more deals getting done is an unrealistic seller. I think there isn't a listing agent or any agent around that would disagree with that.
Right.
If sellers were realistic, everything would sell. Everything would sell because everything has a value. So if you just accepted the highest bid, everything would sell because there's always going to be a bid, right?
Right.
So how do you, this is the question I've been really struggling, not even focused on for years. How do you educate a seller? How do you tell the seller, I'm sorry, I know you think it's worth 4 million, but it's worth 3 million. You've been on the market for 3 years. You've been on the market with a top broker at this firm and a top broker at that firm, and they have done all the right things, and they have brought you numerous offers around 3 million, and you have rejected all of them because you still think your home is worth 4 million. Why? And this is normally the conversation we have when sellers call us direct. This is what we tell them. You're on the market for 3 years. You're with great brokers. They're on Zillow or StreetEasy, MLS, and so on.
They did their due diligence, professional photography, marketing strategy.
It's not the listing agent's fault. It's usually the seller who is unrealistic. So really then the question is, how do you educate the seller? And some sellers need a different approach. And that's, again, another great value that we provide. When we complete our program, what the conversation with the seller is, look, you've been on the market with 2 different brokers for 3 years. The conclusion was 3 million. Now it's been another 8 weeks with a listing broker at a good firm and Paramount and an alternative marketing approach, which is auction. And we have done all these extra things, and the listing broker has done all the expected things, and we've done everything combined together at the same time. And guess what? The conclusion is the same thing. It's 3 million. So the marketplace has spoken. The marketplace spoke before with your previous broker, and then again with the other broker, and then with your traditional broker and us together. The buyers are telling you 3 million. Your brokers are telling you 3 million. The auction company is telling you 3 million. The only one that doesn't believe 3 million is the seller.
Yeah. And if you are serious about selling the house, then you should accept it.
Then you should accept it, because here's the next question. If you don't accept it, what are you going to do now? What's the alternative? You're going to reject this 3 million and you're going to terminate your broker and the auction company, and then you're going to hire another broker. How is that going to generate a different outcome?
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to do differently for you that the prior brokers and the auction house didn't do for you?
So would you say that when the seller is ready and the seller comes to you with, yes, I am ready, I didn't like that broker, I didn't like this broker, I am ready for you, Paramount. So how do you, and you convince them and they go through, do you have any clients that are leaving you after oral anyway because they were hoping for a different outcome, or are they sticking to you to the end, with you to the end, and sell the property?
We have both. We have both. Obviously, we prefer the latter because that's when we get paid, when the property sells. But, we have both. As we have grown over the years and become more successful, done more transactions, become more eloquent at demonstrating our value to the seller, it's more and more of the latter than the former, meaning it's more and more of the sellers who understand the value that we're providing.
And they're sticking to their guns, and they're
not to their gun, they're sticking to
us.
To
the procedure. They're sticking to the procedure, to complete the procedure, and to sell the property through the auction.
Right. And we've also become better at being selective up front and qualifying sellers better. Since we are more active, we don't take every transaction. Unfortunately, we have to say no a lot. We say no much more than we say yes, because how can we sell a $4 million home for $6 million?
Right.
That happens all the time. All the time, sellers call us and they say, I'm on the market, I'm asking $6 million, I'm getting offers at 4, 4.5, 5 million, and I want to hire you to get me $6 million, and I want you to do it in 30 days. And I say, okay, I would like that too, but how are we going to do something for you in 30 days that your good broker hasn't done in 12 months? The problem is not the broker. The problem is the unrealistic seller and the expectations of the seller. So we say no. And frankly, either the seller adjusts and understands that they're unrealistic and we do proceed, or the seller reduces their price with the listing broker. So we often help listing brokers get a price reduction, even if we don't get hired. Or the seller maintains their position, doesn't hire us, doesn't reduce the price, and likely still doesn't sell the property.
Right. So I think it's a very valuable approach what you are offering, and I understand that you are working with so many different firms throughout New York metropolitan area, and you have got connections. You educate agents. So your biggest client, I would say, would be an agent, right? So you talk to agents, you talk to their management, you explain the procedure, and you bring great value to the sellers and the buyers.
Absolutely. Yes.
And
yes
the process is easy in a way. It is easy and it's traditional. You still have the appraisal, you still have the inspection, you make sure the title work is done, so all the paperwork is in order. Your buyers have access to everything they need. They can ask any questions. They can view the property as many times as they wish. And the sense of urgency, I think it's so important when you have the date and the deadline and everyone have to submit. Here we go.
That's right. Yes to everything you just said. In the last 12 or 18 months alone, we have worked with Brown Harris Stevens. We have worked with Compass. We have worked with Ryan Serhant personally. And we have successfully sold new development condominiums, co-ops, penthouses, townhouses, all of the above, all in the last 12 or 18 months in New York, in Miami, and elsewhere. And I love the fact that we are working with other brokerage firms and that we are providing value to these listing agents and to their firms, really, because making it more likely that the listing sells is much more valuable because a commission is better than zero. Making it more likely that it sells faster is a significant value because the listing broker's greatest asset is time. It's one of their greatest assets, time. And making more likely that the listing agent keeps the whole fee, obviously it's better to make double than half.
All right.
So I'm loving working with these other listing agents.
And making sure that you are doing everything possible to sell that property for higher price than it was listed. So
if we can,
if you
that's
can,
great.
you will do that,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. You know, also last year, Sotheby's and Realogy, which was just rebranded as Anywhere. Realogy, of course, owns multiple brokerage firms like Corcoran and Century 21 and Coldwell Banker and numerous others. They formed a joint venture and purchased another luxury auction house. I think that's phenomenal news and a testament to the trend. As far as I know, in the residential space, that's the first time a Main Street real estate player has crossed the line and joined and embraced the auction business by acquiring this company. The summer before, CoStar Group, which is one of the largest commercial real estate companies in the country, acquired the nation's largest commercial auction company. So in the last 2 years alone, the last exactly 2 years, we have seen the largest commercial auction company and one of the largest national luxury residential auction companies both be acquired by non-auction players, which I think is absolutely a statement and a testament to the trend that this is
that is the right path and the right way.
It is a right path and a right way, and I'm just very happy to be where we are as
basically the leader. Yeah, you are the leader. You were the first one here, or one of the first
one
ones.
of the first, and definitely the most active in the Metro New York area, which I'm very excited about.
Well, thank you, Misha. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you, and I understand it so much better, and I certainly hope that our audience does as well. So,
I appreciate that, Lucy. Thank you so much for having me, and it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Misha.